Hare Krishna. So, glories of Bhagavad Gita.
So we'll read this verse. This is ninth verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita Mahatmya from Sri Vaishnaviya Tantra Sar. And we have been reading few verses from this particular scripture. What does it say? It says, Ye Shranvanti Patati Eva Pathanti Eva Gita Shastram Aharnisham Nate Vai Manusha Geya Deva Rupana Samshayaha. It says, one who day and night hears and recites the Gita is never to be taken as a mere human being. Without a doubt, he is a veritable God. So it says that those who, if one is constantly chanting and reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita, reciting Bhagavad Gita, trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, trying to study Bhagavad Gita, that person should not be taken as an ordinary human being. Without a doubt, he is a veritable God or Deva Rupa, which means that person develops godly qualities. So that are the glories of Bhagavad Gita. And now we will begin with our session.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vreshthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshadharini. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram.
Hare Krishna. So like always, we will begin our session with the Gita Rewind. So we have already completed the first section of Bhagavad Gita. So here we would be sharing
Slide.
the first question. I think we missed out typing there. Arjun questions Krishna in the beginning of chapter 3. Which verse is he referring to from chapter 2? So you have to mark the verse number from chapter 2 which he is referring to.
I'll repeat the question just for greater clarity. So the question is, in the beginning of the third chapter, last session, we saw that the beginning of third chapter, Arjuna asked questions.
Okay, sorry.
Arjuna had asked questions. So which verse from the second chapter was he referring to? So I remember we had put it in the insight, and we have put the verse number to which Arjuna was referring to while asking those questions. So the first one is a bouncer question, and you have to really go back into your memory and get the answer. If you have revised your notes, then you will know the answer. Okay. All the best.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So finally, we are seeing first time comments like it's tough one and hard today. Yeah, it is designed that way because we have been requesting all of you, sometimes with folded hands, please read the
Notes at least.
At least go through the notes before you move into the session. And that would really go a long way in consolidating your learning. See, that's the whole point. We want to consolidate your learning so that things set in, Okay.
So
we are
let's
sharing the result.
let's carefully go through the questions so that in case you did not get it right, at least now you would know.
Okay, so first question, which we discussed before the start of the quiz also, Arjuna questions Krishna in the beginning of third chapter, which verse was he referring to from the second chapter? And the right answer is 49.
49.
Third option is the right option, 49th verse from the chapter 2.
Second question, Arjun's confusion was, which is better, renunciation or work?
Yay, more than 60% of you got it right. Good.
Second is the correct option. Going to the third one.
Religion without philosophy is sentiment. Okay, again, most of you got it right.
One cannot attain perfection simply by. So this question, generally we see this question, both A and B, haan, wohi mark kar do, that would be correct. We don't really read the options also. So the correct answer for this one is one cannot attain perfection simply by abstaining from work. Those of you who have chosen devotional service, of course, one will get perfection just by devotional service. But the question is, one cannot attain perfection. So one cannot attain perfection simply by abstaining work.
In fact, if you would have just studied the options carefully, you would have got the right answer. Okay, so next question is, soul is always active, and 82% of you got it right. Jai.
Activity of the soul is based on modes of nature it has acquired. Third is the correct answer.
Great, most of you got it right. Next is Mithyachari means pretender. Okay, that was an easy one.
And the next one, dutiful householder is better than a pretending sannyasi. So that is true.
Performing one's duty is better than not working is again true.
Benefits of performing yajna includes, so the correct answer for this, freedom from reaction. It does not include troubles and miseries. It does not include gradual happiness. It is just freedom from reaction.
So that was another googly coming towards the end of the hour.
Okay, so now we will get into our session. Can you share the screen?
Yes, I'll do that. Okay, so mastery course, and if you remember, we were in the section 2.
Yeah, we were talking about the yoga ladder.
A couple of verses were left in this.
Yes.
Towards the end.
So we have already spent some time explaining you the yoga ladder, and the 10th verse we did, 11th, 12th we have done. Here in 11th, 12th verses, there are few additional life lessons. So we would pick up from the life lessons or from 11 and 12.
I just read
We'll
the
just
shloka
read
and
the
then you
shloka,
take
yes.
the, you help with the life lesson. Okay, so shloka 11 and 12, I'm reading for all of your benefit. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you. And thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So, this is the life lesson.
God is supplying us nice food stuff, air, water, and all other facilities for our comfortable survival. That's His greatness. But if we use everything without expressing our gratitude, then won't that be our extreme selfishness? So, as we saw that in this verse, Krishna was describing as how the whole cycle runs, the whole material nature, how it is controlled and governed under Krishna's supervision, and how everything happens and we get everything. So, the question is about expressing our gratitude in return to the Supreme Lord because He has been providing us everything. The second life lesson here is if one worships the Supreme Lord and does activities for His pleasure, one is expected from all other one is exempted from all other obligations.
So, this is also a very nice point that we need to understand. See, all the devatas, they are like the parts of the body of the Lord. They all are empowered by the Lord. So, if we actually worship the Supreme Lord, and we do activities for Lord's pleasure, then we are free from all the obligations to all the devatas. Because here in these verses, Krishna is explaining, see, devatas are supplying you, they are controlling the wind, they are controlling the sun, the heat and the fire and the light and the water. So they're all different devatas who are controlling these elements, and you're taking advantage of that. So you must express your gratitude by performing different yagyas. So this is what Krishna is explaining. But we need to understand that all these devatas are actually in turn serving the Supreme Lord. They have been appointed by him. Like we have ministers in the government. So, or the ministers to a king. So if we are serving the king, so if we are serving the Supreme Lord, then we are free from obligations towards these devatas. So that's a very powerful point here. And I think this life
This we
lesson we had
covered last
discussed
time.
in
Yeah.
detail.
We can proceed. 13th we have
13th
already
we have
discussed.
already completed. So there are these three significant yagyas. As Sukiti was explaining last time, the yagya that we need to do is Harinam Sankirtan. So these are the three yagyas that devotees do. One is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Second is the offering of the bhoga to the Supreme Lord. And third is by honoring prasadam. In fact, all these three are like the equivalent of yagya or sacrifice.
And then there is another very funny interesting jingle. More mercy per bite, Krishna prasadam is just right. So as we eat more and more food which is offered to Krishna and which we call prasadam, so we get more and more Krishna's mercy. So more mercy per bite, Krishna prasadam is just right. So now we will begin with the session. This portion we have covered in the last session. Now we'll get into shloka number 14 and see what is Krishna talking there. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagyah karma samudbhavaha.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. So this verse, if we very simply see, from the prescribed duties in the Vedas, they make it compulsory that we should perform yagya. And by performance of yagya, rain comes. And of course, we know that with rain, grains grow, grass grow, and on which we subsist. So we need to understand that such a cycle exists. So here this is the verse we talk about, and we have made this chakra, in this slide, and we can have a look. Evam pravartitam chakram, the cycle of sacrifice. So first, as we know that the yagya in Kali Yuga is Harinam Sankirtan. Sankirtan yagya, that is the prescribed yagya in Kali Yuga. So we chant the holy names, and with that, by the grace of the Lord, and the devatas follow in queue. So we have rainfall. Because of rains, we have grains. We get grains which grow in the farm, in the soil. And interestingly, that we see that also will grow the grass, which the cows will eat and will give us milk. And by the same rain, cotton will grow, and from that cotton we get cloth. From the same rain, wood will grow. Nowadays we are using cement and all, but earlier only from purely natural material the shelter would be made. The houses would be made from wood and from other things, from mud. They'll make the houses. So you see that from rainfall, the everything for our protection, the food, the covering, the clothing, and the shelter, everything actually comes from that. And now the point is that should be offered to the Lord. So when we harvest grains, we offer it to the Lord, we honor it as prasadam. By eating grains and vegetables and fruits, we get energy. Now we need to understand from where did we get the energy. We got the energy by eating grains. The grains we got from the rain. Rain we got by the grace of the Lord. So where should this energy be used? This should be used as for the Lord's service, use this energy for serving the Lord for His pleasure. So this is a very beautiful, simple cycle, which is this life cycle of a lifestyle of a devotee.
So we must always remember that best of all the sacrifices is Harinameva Kevalam, only holy names. So that chanting of the holy names, we can chant either on our beads or we can sing the holy names in the association of other devotees, and that is the best Harinam Sankirtan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So actually, Srila Prabhupada had established so many temples, ISKCON temples all over the world. And when the temple opening would be going on, like there are so many rituals inviting the deities and Netrunmilad, like eyes opening, Unmilitam, opening of the eyes and installing the deities. And there would be such wonderful priests who would come and do all these rituals. But simultaneously, Prabhupada would always say, do Harinam Kirtan. He would always say that this is what is actually pleasing to the Supreme Lord, and this is how the Supreme Lord would actually come and reside. So this is the most pleasurable thing for the Supreme Lord.
And as Sukiti is explaining that whatever yagyas are happening, so we know in Kali Yuga, there may be so many faults in the ingredients, in the purohit, in the pujari,
in the
water, the ingredients, and
the ghee, the water, where we get pure.
And even the yajman, I mean, we don't have that purity of mind. So Jiva Goswami says that by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all these faults, they go away, right? Okay, so the prime sacrifice for the age of Kali is Harinam Sankirtan.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. My dear Arjun, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
So we see that all of us are engaged in some activity or the other. So there should be some purpose to that activity. All of us are engaged in some activity. If you look around, everybody is busy. So there should be some purpose. So what is that purpose? In fact, so we know that the purpose of all the activities ideally should be to serve the Supreme Lord. So because many people think, bhakti is in the heart. Anybody can do whichever way they want, they can do. But here Krishna is saying that there is a prescribed method. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. So which means there is a process, there is a method. Bhakti is not just sentiment. Anybody can do whichever way they want. No. In fact, I'm sure in whichever part of the world, whichever part of the country you are living in, when you come out of the house, you're driving a vehicle, there are traffic rules which you have to follow. You cannot just go anywhere and everywhere. So when for driving there are regulations, why not for spiritual life?
So the insight from this verse, one, Vedas are not different from the Supreme Lord. Actually, we understand like how Bhagavad Gita, we know these are the words of the Supreme Lord. In fact, it is said that of all these scriptures combined, Laghu Bhagavatamrita says that the most important scripture is Bhagavad Gita. Why so? Because it comes directly from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. Other scriptures are glorifying the Lord, but here it is directly emanating from the Supreme Lord. So Vedas are not different from Supreme Lord. And then the second point is sacrifice is must. So whatever we are doing in the human body, see, we remember that we saw the yoga ladder in the last session. So sacrifice, those who are not doing sacrifice are put under animalistic life. So what distinguishes us from the animals is sacrifice. But here this sacrifice, the meaning of the sacrifice is activity is done for the pleasure of Krishna. That is the significance of this word sacrifice here. So sacrifice must be done. Otherwise, what happens? One would lead a highly sinful life.
So this is so amazing, Sugiti. I mean, if you look at people around us, we say so many things are necessary, so many things, but nobody says that, worship of Lord is compulsory.
Yeah. In none of these schools we are taught that you must worship your, like whichever religion you are, but you worship the
maybe in
Supreme
some
Lord,
Islamic countries, religion is compulsory. I don't know, but
here,
nowhere,
here it is not there.
nowhere it is like that. Otherwise,
so otherwise a person would be leading highly sinful life. Why is it highly sinful? Because everything what he would be doing would be for sense gratification. See, sacrifice means we are doing some activity for a higher cause, not for my pleasure, but for pleasure of somebody else. That act is known as sacrifice when we are doing it for somebody else's pleasure. So if we are not doing that, then everything what I do is for my own personal pleasure. So if we are leading life like this, then the third point, what it says there is wastes human life. So we are otherwise, if we are not doing sacrifice, then we stagnate there beyond yoga ladder. We are down there somewhere in the leading the animalistic life, or what we call dvipada pashu. So with this we have completed the second section of the third chapter, and now we would be sharing our next screen for the third section. So now we will start with the third section now, which is exemplary life. So this is from verse number 17 to verse number 35.
okay. So let's look at the first two verses, that is 17 and 18. I'll read it for all of us to hear. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
So just to give you a connection, the third chapter, first section, Krishna was talking to Arjuna that do your duties but with detachment, and we concluded that how he was talking about Nishkam Karma Yoga. In the second section, he was actually explaining the whole procedure of the yoga ladder, where he was telling that at least you must do the sacrifice. Now he is beginning the third chapter, and he is talking about somebody who is so wonderful that for him there is no duty. So as we see that in the 17th shloka, Krishna is saying for him there is no duty. So let's realize who are these exalted person for whom Krishna himself is saying that there is no duty.
Yeah. So actually, if you see in this 17th verse, the word used is Atmarati. Atmarati means that he takes pleasure in Atma, in knowing that he is Atma. So, what does it mean? If you look at our real identity, Atma, which means I am servant of the Lord, right? So, we look into that when we look at the insights. So, who are such people? Have you known such people? Very rare to come across such personalities. So Prabhupada gives very beautiful example. He gives example of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So these were the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya, and you'll be amazed to know that they were the leading people, leading personalities of the society at that time. 2 of them were actually ministers in the government of Nawab Hussain Shah in Bengal. So they were actually ministers. And when, so they will do their ministerial work during the daytime, and in the night, evenings and night, they'll actually be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam in their homes. And that time came when they decided to renounce everything, and then they went to Vrindavan Dham on the instructions of Lord Chaitanya. And these Goswamis, they were so renounced, uh, they actually fit in this definition because they would sleep under one tree and they will not sleep under the same tree again. They will go to some
They
other
were so detached.
They were so detached, and they will move to another tree the next day, and they'll just go around. So they did a lot of important service for Lord Chaitanya. They compiled very important Vaishnava literature. They discovered the lost places of the pastimes of Lord Krishna on the instructions of Lord Chaitanya. So these are the personalities. For them actually there was no duty because they were completely absorbed in remembering Krishna's pastimes.
But like as Prabhu was telling, that they waited for themselves to get mature and come to that level. So they were serving in their respective duties till the time they reached at that point. So that is what we were discussing in the last session, that premature renunciation is dangerous. So they waited for the time to come. So here are the insights from this verse. There is no duty for one who is
Fully satisfied. So see, it's very simple. For us, that kind of person is very difficult to imagine. But please understand, if you're sad and if you want to be joyful, so there's a group of friends who are always jolly, very they're always having fun and all. So if you go and mix up with that group, they're very jolly and you are not so, but then you go and mix up with them. So what will happen is, with some time, you'll also become very happy because everybody else is very happy. Similarly, if you meet and you connect with a group of criminals, you don't really have to learn criminality. Just being with them, you will, one will actually gain a criminal mindset. Now, let's understand who's the most joyful person. Who's the most happiest person? It is nobody else other than God, other than Supreme Lord. So here, this particular devotee, he's serving the Lord, he's associating with the Lord. And because Lord is the most joyful, most happy person in the entire existence, so just being with him, just taking association, he is also completely joyful and fully satisfied. So he does not need anything from outside, from his environment for his own satisfaction. He does not feel any need. He is not lacking in anything because he's connected with the Supreme. So that's why he is fully satisfied, and also he's self-realized. So as we were discussing, who am I? I'm spirit soul, I'm servant of the Lord, and therefore I need to serve the Supreme Lord. So when I engage in Krishna's service, actually that is self-realization. When we sincerely, eagerly, in a very determined way, we begin service of Krishna, that time, that moment, we actually gain that realization that we are not this body, we are actually servant of the Supreme Lord. So these are 2 powerful insights from this set of verses.
So moving ahead, shloka number 19.
Tasmad
Tasmad
asakta
asaktah
satatam
satatam
karyam
karyam
karma
karma
samachara
samachara
asakto
asakto hi
hi
acharan karma
param
param
apnoti
apnoti
purushaha.
purushaha. Therefore, Without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So, actually, in this verse, Krishna is describing that the person who is self satisfied, who does not have any duty, how does he actually work? So, he is still working, like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, when they were there in their jobs, they were still working, but they were completely detached from the fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means any activity, if I have that mindset that which fruit or what return I'll get, that is known as fruitive activity. So they do not work out of fruitive activity, but as a duty, and they just want to be serving the Supreme Lord.
Now we look at the insights, but before we actually discuss the insights, I am seeing here that some of you are writing direct messages to us. We request that you please write to moderator. We have a moderator here who's moderating this session. Please direct your questions towards him so that he can help you out with that. Thank you, Bhima Shankar.
So here we have the insight from this verse. So how such person works? So the first thing is with detachment from the fruits. So he is not attached to the fruits as a matter of duty. And who decides what is his duty? His duty is decided under proper guidance of these scriptures. So here we have shared this video to show the detachment. So how those videos
I mean, as we are doing our duty, detached from the foods, so unnecessary things go away from us. So it's detached, getting detached.
And then who, if they are working like this, then in the whole process, their attachment for Krishna increases. So gradually they become detached from the worldly affairs, and because of that, their attachment to Krishna goes on increasing. So these people are not they are not duty bound, in the sense they are not forced to do certain duties because of attachment, yet they do the duty because they know that that is what they are expected to do, and their focus is on the goal. So all they want is a Supreme Lord, all they want is a perfection in life. And here we also understand, like, when we are talking about duties, when we are talking about rituals, when we are talking about worshipping, so we must be very, very clear that there are two different things. One is following the Vedic rituals, and second is the Krishna conscious activities. So at times we may find people who are doing certain ritualistic activity, like a particular festival and how it is supposed to be celebrated. So we are celebrating the festival as per our family tradition, but we are not including Krishna in that. It is not centered around Krishna. So then it becomes a ritual which may or may not be directly done for the pleasure of the Lord. So all the activities what we do, all the Vedic rituals what a person performs, either they directly serve the Supreme Lord or they are indirectly guided towards him. So we have to be conscious and try to do activities which are directly Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious means we are conscious of Krishna when we are doing those activities. So anything what we are doing, we should ask this question to ourselves. Like any Vedic rituals also, when we are performing, are we conscious that this ritual I am doing for the Supreme Lord? Like a very simple thing, that if the pujari comes and he has to purify himself before starting any big homa, any fire sacrifice, before starting he has to do
Yagya.
achman. Yeah, before doing any yagya he has to do achman. Achman is purifying his body. So for that he takes water and he pours a water on his palm, he sips it and he starts chanting Om Keshavaya Namah, Om Narayanaaya Namah, Om Madhavaya Namah, Om Govindaya Namah, Om Vishnave Namah, Om Madhusudanaya Namah, Om Trivikramaya Namah, Om Vamanaya Namah, Om Sridharaya Namah, Om Rishikeshaya Namah, Om Padmanabhaya Namah, Om Damodaraya Namah. Now, so many names of Krishna he has chanted. Is he conscious that he is chanting the names of Krishna? Or it is just a ritual that he is cleansing himself? I mean, even if he is doing as a ritual, it will have a lot of effect. But then imagine if inattentively somebody is chanting, will have so much effect. So if he is consciously thinking of Krishna while doing that, then how huge the impact would be. So that was the point which we wanted to clarify here.
Yeah. So we have been looking at Atmarati, a person who takes pleasure in the soul, who takes pleasure in the fact that he's a servant of the Supreme Lord. He takes pleasure in serving the Supreme Lord. So, and for such a person, there is no duty. Krishna is saying for such a person, there is no duty. But we will find that these personalities still perform their duty. And why would they do it? So that Krishna reveals in the next set of verses. So he's saying, kings like Janak, the father of Mother Sita, kings such as Janak attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So this is here Krishna is indicating that if you perform your prescribed duties and you do them solely, for in a detached way, so then the purpose is that we do it for the sake of educating the people in general. This is what Krishna is saying, that you should perform your duty. Here Krishna is tapping Arjuna and is telling, see, you are also a leader, right? So you should perform your duties. Why? For the sake of educating people. A lot of people are looking at you and they're learning from you what to do and what not to do. So for the sake of their education, you should do. And then he's saying, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So many times I've seen on these bookstores, they'll have these books on famous people. And those biographies and sometimes autobiographies will highlight the great struggle that they went through and how they mastered, certain
How they handled
how they
the
handled.
challenges
Yeah,
and
yeah,
threats of
yeah,
life.
yeah. So here Krishna is saying, whatever action a great man performs, common man follow. It's very natural. Like when we were young and we were in school, there were so many times where certain teachers will really inspire us. Our favorite teachers or our parents or our father or mother, sometimes the elder brother, sometimes some celebrity would be so inspiring to us.
So before we go to the next slide, how many of you think that you are a leader? You are in some leadership position. How many of you are in a leadership position? Just type me in the chat box. If you think that you are leading some people under you. Okay, Sarma, Gita, Mahimala, Sapna, Charanjeevam, Veena Arya, Shailesh, Anuttama, Hemant, Hari Prasad, Pushpa, Vasumati, Fani,
Sunita, Paras, Sai Shri, Sudha Reddy, Sudhi Reddy. Okay, Divya.
Okay, good, good. Thank you. Now, how many of you think that you are not the leader? Type not me. If you think that you are not in a leadership position, type not me.
So those who have written already yes, they cannot write because they were okay.
Shailja, Ravi, Shanti, Sarisha, Priya, Sneha, Yogita,
Chetan, Prakash,
Hari,
Kotai,
Hari Prasad.
Swapnali, Hema, Ranjit Kumar. So they feel they are not leaders. Sugiti,
So
any comments on that?
Yeah. So we saw that quite a few, like a greater percentage of you have written that you are in the leadership position. And some of you, like I can say maybe 60, 40?
20, 25, 20%.
Really? 20%? 80, 20? Okay, so 80%
Many of
of
them have
you
not
think
responded.
that you are the leader, and many of you think that you are not the leader. So now for those who are the leader, we will see the next slide, and then we will talk about them who think that those who are not the leaders. So this is for those who are the leaders.
So we have an insight why an ideal leader works. So one is leader must lead an exemplary life. The reason is because he's setting an example. The ideal leader is he understands that it is my duty and I must do it, right? So we don't see, there are so many people. If you are planning to lead, there are so many people under us or whatever. we don't have time to individually train them. If there are many people, especially if you look at the example of kings, they have the entire country to lead. If you look at prime minister, like in India, we have prime ministership, the main leader of the country. Now he cannot, practically it's impossible for 100 crore plus population for him to train individually. It is not possible. So how would a leader train them? So the point is, if he just leads an exemplary life, if he personally sets an outstanding exemplary example of his own conduct, that really sets the example for everybody else to follow. So and of course, he leads his life in a way that is of devotion and of service to Krishna. So by his own example, so many people become devotees. So we see that example in case of Vedic kings. I mean, if you look at if you look at Yudhishthir Maharaj, in Yudhishthir Maharaj case, the king was so perfect. He tried, and the entire kingdom was run in perfect way. So there was no citizen who would have a problem. If they had a problem, those problems was immediately addressed to. So those were the actually ideal leaders, and such kings were actually very well educated. They were very well educated in the system, how to administer. They were very well educated, as we were discussing long time back, in Dharma Shastra, in Artha Shastra. They would come in lineages of moon god or sun god, so they were naturally coming in devotional lines also. In fact, it is said that if the country is being ruled perfectly by an ideal king, there will not be excessive cold. There will not be any scorching heat. There will not be untimely rain. What to talk about Adi Devik problems? In fact, we will see in Ramayana, one time one person came and complained, how is it, Lord Ram, in your kingdom, how is it that a son can die before father? So imagine, even for that, a king used to be responsible. We cannot even imagine that kind of leadership nowadays. So Krishna wanted Arjuna to become an ideal person so that ordinary man can just follow his example, right?
So that is why, so the question actually what Krishna is answering through this verses, as we saw in verse number 17 and 18, Krishna said that such a person has no duty to perform. There are no prescribed duties for him. So the question may arise, and why such a person works? So Krishna is answering here that why such a person who is self-realized, who is fully satisfied, and why he still works. So in the previous verse, we saw first Krishna gave the example of King Janak. So he says that kings like Janak, they did not had any prescribed duties, and yet they were working because they wanted to lead an exemplary lifestyle so that others should follow. So those of you who said that you are the leader, so you must understand this, that leader must lead an exemplary lifestyle, and he is setting an example for others, and this whole effort would be pleasing to Krishna. So he works in that manner for pleasing Krishna. Coming to those of you who mentioned that you are not the leaders, so my dear friends, we must understand the second point, that we are all leaders to someone. Like if you are a mother, you are the role figure for your child. If you have some maid servant or a security guard in your building, he looks up to you and he or she may try to imitate you or follow you even without your knowing. So actually each one of us, it varies that whom we are leading,
Influencing, yeah,
whom we are influencing, yeah, but we are all an influencer to certain degree. So we are all leaders to someone. Now the question is, am I inspiring my tribe in the proper direction? So those people who are following me, am I showing them the proper way? Am I leading an exemplary lifestyle?
Yeah, I remember, Sugiri, we did one, I think we did one of the polls long time back, and we were asking who's the person who inspires you the most or something. Many people said mom, mother.
Yes, mom, and then many said grandmother also.
Grandmother. And in fact, even if you are like some of you have younger siblings, so you don't know. Actually, the younger sibling may be learning so many things from you. And as parents, the parents would see that how children, you don't teach, the parents don't teach, but so many points and things that kids will just pick up just by observing, by listening, by seeing. They will learn so much from their parents alone. Parents are natural leaders, mothers are natural leaders, the elder sibling is a natural leader. Usually that's how it is.
So moving to the next set of verses 22 and 23. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems. So now Krishna is giving his own example. What he's saying, that for me there is no work prescribed, nor am I in want of anything, because Krishna is self-satisfied. Who can be more self-satisfied than Krishna? So he's saying, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Parth, certainly all men would follow my path.
So as Sugiti is saying that, is explaining that how Krishna is now giving his personal example, say there is no work prescribed within, for me within these, all the planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, and nor have I need to obtain anything. And yet he's engaged in prescribed duties. And he's explaining here that if he does not do that, so many people will just follow his path, and they will all create a huge problem in the whole structure of the society. So in all these things, one thing is weaved in, which is a very interesting point, and I want all of you to write it down. And that is actually in the insight of this verse. The insight is that Krishna is defining God. So please write it down. Definition of God. Now, there are many, many attributes of God, of Supreme Personality, of Godhead, Supreme Lord, and this is one of them, that God has no work. There is no work for God.
No duties.
There's no duties for God. Right? Because why? And he's explaining that. Because I do not want anything. I have no wants. He's not, Krishna, Lord is not lacking in anything. And he's then writing, nor have I need to obtain anything. So he does not want, he does not need. So there are no needs and no wants. And that is what distinguishes God from a human being. So if you look at all of us, what is our situation? We are all doing something to gain. Whether he's a materialist or whether he's a spiritualist, both are doing something or the other to gain. Materialist is working because he wants some material pleasure. A spiritualist, like all of us, we are also working. We are also trying to do. We are chanting japa. Why? Because we want something. What do we want? We want to gain. We want to advance in spiritual life. So that's why we also have to put in effort. We have to chant Hare Krishna mantra every day. But Krishna does not have to do anything. So that is the definition of God. God does not have to do anything. But Krishna follows the prescribed duties and he leads by example. So, okay.
And here we have an interesting life lesson coming up from this, that God is complete, we are incomplete. Hence, no duties for God, but we have prescribed duties. So because we are not complete, we have so many faults. We are actually ocean of faults. So because we have so many faults, and that is why we have to do our prescribed duties, because as we learned in the last session, that by doing prescribed duties, we gradually get purified.
And we would wonder why Krishna is speaking this on the battlefield. He's a charioteer for Arjuna. He's on the battlefield. And why is Krishna saying that I have nothing to do? I have no duties. I have no responsibilities that way. So Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, see, I'm on this battlefield. I'm sitting here. I'm present in this battlefield. I'm driving your chariot, but I have nothing to gain from you. I have nothing to gain from this battle. And still I'm here. Why? To prove a point that how that the violence, here because he's encouraging Arjuna to fight this war, and he's pointing out because one should use violence where it is required. Of course, he makes a point. So Krishna is saying, that is the reason why I'm sitting here. Otherwise, I have nothing to gain personally from this war. But just that for the righteous purpose, the violence should be used. So we'll go to the next verse, that is the 24th verse.
Utsideyore me loka nakaryam karma chedaham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyame ma prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So in the last verse, we saw that Krishna is talking, Krishna is giving his own example, and he's telling that though he is not obliged to do any duties, and yet he is doing his duties to set an example. And in this verse, he is explaining why. So he is telling why is he leading by example. So first is he is trying to tell that he does not want other people to give his name, like his reason that, oh, Krishna also does like this, so I also will do like that. Though now that may raise a lot of questions, that Krishna did certain things which we may find people asking, like why did he do the Ras Leela, why he was stealing butter, why he ran away from the battlefield. So all these, Krishna basically he does his prescribed duty, and wherever we find things where he is not doing his prescribed duties, one, there is no prescribed duty for him. But still, if he is breaking, if he is seemingly breaking something or doing something which he is not supposed to do by our standard, it is because of the love for his devotees. So because he loves his devotees so strongly that nothing comes in his way of serving those devotees by fulfilling whatever they desire.
So in that regard, I remember it was many years back. I've shared, I don't know, maybe I've shared with all of you also, but can be just a quick refresher. It was many years back, I think in 2003, I was somewhere in Cochin. I was boarding a train from Trivandrum. I was coming to Chennai and I was chanting, holding the beads and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So on the other side, there a very well-dressed, neat person was sitting, and he was looking at me and he was asking, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra." Then next question he asked, "To which group you belong?" So that was a little odd question. And then he started asking me that you are worshipping Krishna, but Krishna did this on the battlefield and this was not okay and that was not okay. And then how do you explain? I said, Krishna is Supreme Lord. If you are saying what is dharma, then whatever Lord does, whatever Lord prescribes is dharma. So when that person heard that, after that, the entire journey, which is almost 1.5, the whole balanced day and the whole night, there was no conversation. He did not ask me a second question after that. So here the second point is to keep social tranquility. So the word used is Sankara, or the unwanted population, or the unwanted children. So those of you who were very attentive, listening to the first chapter, you remember Arjuna was also raising the same point, that if the elders of the family will be killed, then the ladies, the women of the family will become polluted and we'll have unwanted children. But here Krishna is saying that if I do not perform my duty, although I'm not obliged to do my duty, there are no duties for me in this material world, because I am Supreme Lord, I still perform my prescribed duty, because if I do not do that, then unwanted children will come. So Krishna is giving his own example. If I do not do my duty, unwanted population will come. Similarly, Arjuna, if you do not do your duty, you do not perform your duty as a Kshatriya here on this battlefield, then one Sankara will happen. Then the unwanted population will arise. So this is Krishna is explaining that people who do not follow the principles of dharma, many of them are assembled in this battlefield of Mahabharata, of this Kurukshetra, and you should fight this war, right? So this is how Krishna is actually turning the tables on Arjuna, and he's giving the proper perspective.
And the third one, Krishna says, is to establish religion. So the religious principles. So he is following the duties or the moral code to establish what is dharma and what is adharma. So a very important life lesson for all of us here is there are two words. One is imitating and the other is following. So imitating and following are two different things. We do not imitate Krishna as we are not God. We follow Krishna and thus become godly. So we do not start saying, Krishna did that, I'll also do that. We should not get into that spirit, but we have to follow what he's asking us to do.
If somebody is getting into the spirit, they can go to
Govardhan.
they can go to Braj and lift Govardhan hill, on the small finger of their left hand
For 7 days
for 7 and nights.
and nights.
So if they can do that, then they are
can do
most
all
welcome
the other
to
things.
then they can do other things also.
So moving to the last verse for today's discussion, Shloka 25.
Okay.
As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path.
So here, if you see, there are two words which were used are in the first line. You see avidvan so. So first, Krishna is talking about two kinds of people. One is avidvan, which means one who is not intelligent, one who is foolish. And if you see the third line, Krishna is using the word vidwan. So he is talking about two classes of men. One is avidwan and the second is vidwan, the ignorant and the intelligent. Now, we will see that our whole society, our whole civilization is moving towards how we can better eat, how we can better sleep, how we can better mate, how we can better protect ourselves. That is the entire civilization, which is actually the civilization has these four goals. If you look at current civilization, and that is why world sees, oh, India is underdeveloped. It is a developing nation because we have not sufficiently developed in these four areas. If you look at Western countries, oh, they have better facilities for eating, they have better facilities for sleeping, for mating, and for defending. So they are considered better, we are considered inferior, if we are from India or from any other third world country. So these are the parameters that decide. So such people who have such thought process are avidwan, less intelligent, because eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, even the dog in the street knows. So if we do the same activities in a better way, then we can say we are better dog. We cannot say we are human beings. So from street dog to us, if our activities are same, we can only say we are better dog or a better animal, right? Otherwise, there's no difference between us and them. So what distinguishes us from this avidwan or vidwan? So what is the distinction? Again, the avidwan, they do not know that we are spirit. So they, for example, don't have any understanding of the cycle of transmigration. They don't know that we move from this body to another. So much effort they put in this life for enjoyment. Oh, this project and that better house and better car, and they're just trying to have better facilities. They don't know that a time will come when they leave everything beside and they just go bare hands, right, to the next form. So these are all the traits of an avidwan or a less intelligent, foolish, ignorant man. So who is a vidwan? Who shows how intelligence has to be used, right? How we have to actually engage, understand this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. How do we modify our lifestyle so that we become more aligned on the path of Krishna consciousness or bhakti? Then actually the real intelligence of the human form gets exposed or gets evolved.
So the whole point is, the Prabhu was describing about Vidwan and Avidwan. So the whole difference, the whole game is about whether I have any desire, I have no desire, or I have desire to serve Krishna. So that is the insight from this verse. As you can see, three options are given. And whether I have desire to enjoy this material world. So that is one category. Second category is, okay, I do not have any desire at all. But then the best one is, I do have a desire, but that desire is, how can I serve Krishna? How can I engage my talents, my resources, my body, my mind, and everything in service of Krishna. And here is the life lesson from this, that what we desire defines our destination. So what is our desire? On that basis, we reach at certain place. So if I'm desiring for my sense gratification, then there I will there I will be. If I desire for serving the Krishna, for serving the Supreme Lord, then there would I reach. So it all depends on what do I desire.
So you are what you desire, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with this, we are concluding today's session. So thank you all very much for joining. Hope you have marked the attendance. There are a couple of important announcements. One is that tomorrow is Gita Jayanti, or the Ekadashi, on which Srimad Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken. So we all request you to take out some extra time and dedicate it to reading Bhagavad Gita, because today it's very, very auspicious day. And those of you who have not started observing Ekadashi, probably from tomorrow onwards, you can start observing the Ekadashi. Before leaving, please mark the attendance. Our moderator is sending the link. So before you leave, you please mark your attendance. And any other announcement?
Yeah, some of you are saying that the Ekadashi was on 26 in our countries. Yeah. So I hope you have watched our video on Ekadashi. We took time. We collated and collected all the different questions many of you have been asking about Ekadashi, and we made that one. And it was not a very long video, 26-minute video, 23-minute video, where we discuss all these questions, including the question of when is Ekadashi. So there is an app. In that video, in the description, we have given the address of that app also on Play Store, where you can feed your city and you know when and what time the Ekadashi is and when to break the fast.
Okay, and another very important announcement, that in ISKCON we have a youth segment which we call ISKCON Youth Services. So the girls wing of ISKCON Youth Services in Chennai, I am taking care of it, and we organize weekly programs for girls who are less than 30 years old. So those of you who are yourself falling in that bracket, or if you know someone who would be interested, so like this Sunday at 6:30, we have a session. The topic is the mask we wear. So if you want to attend that, and if you fall in that category, as I said, so you are most welcome to attend that session. And for that, I would request you to take a note of a phone number where you have to contact and from where you will get the Zoom details. So the number is 91764 29840. I will repeat again, 91764 29840. So this session is on Sunday evening.
I can type it here.
And the topic is the mask we wear.
Number?
91764
91764
29840.
29840.
So her name is Deepa. So you can contact for those of you who are ladies less than 30. So with this, we will stop today's session. Officially, we have reached to an end. Any question? We have a Q&A link. We request you to send your questions there, and we'll take your questions live on Sunday evening, 5 p.m. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.